Barry Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, be Brandon Davies. Smash that like button. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, please do that anywhere you subscribe to podcasts like Apple and Spotify. Let's get into it. I want to start in Midtown Manhattan, where the Jimmy V Classic was held Tuesday night inside New York's Madison Square Garden. We'll begin with the nightcap. Final score, UConn 77, Florida 73. Xavier Lee, he tried to hush his haters, at least in the first half. He scored last night, but solo ball got 19 points. Alex Carabin added 13, and Dan Hurley's Huskies improved to 9-1 while remaining undefeated at full strength. Norlander, you were in the building for the game. I was in my living room for the game. Felt like a fun one to me. Did it feel like a fun one to you?
It absolutely was. Really, really good game. Florida continues to just knock on the door. It can't get the dub. We'll lead on UConn, though. To get the kind of well-rounded performance they got, I thought was really impressive. I mean, solo ball had 19. I got to speak with Hurley after, and he gave me an absurd quote, which I'll get to in just a moment. But I did ask, listen, it seems like when solo's really clicking, that might be the best thing for your team, just, for him to get going and not necessarily to always lead your team in scoring, but to make sure that he's filling it up. And Dan was like, really, it's really like we've got 9 guys and we don't necessarily need solo to always be the guy. Like, Caravan we were outside the locker room, and so Caravan was walking through, and it was on the record. And so earmuffs for any of the little ones listening. But as he's just mid-interview with me, he just looks at Caravan, shakes his hand, and goes, "Captain fucking America." It's like it can be him. Terrace is not all the way healthy, although Hurley told me he'd only practiced twice since the Illinois game. And he was slated to be ready to go for full practices in the days ahead, which is good. They got Texas on Friday. You saw what Malachi Smith did. I thought that was really, really big. But it can be any given guy on any given night, and it was yet another really good UConn win. Dan Hurley scheduled aggressively with intention in the offseason. It's paying off. There's only one notable high major left on the schedule, and we talked about that. I'll actually have a little bit more on that stuff on the site. I think we're going to save that for Thursday, so be on the lookout for that. But if you really want to know the reason why UConn won, thankfully I can provide it to you. And although the term exclusive gets tossed around way too liberally in all media these days, this is an exclusive quote. I did get it from Hurley, and this is the reason why UConn won. So they play a competitive first half, both the teams, and then Florida gets out of the jump, out of the second half, out of halftime, and is really making some moves. And here's what Hurley said. This is all on the record. I got another Hurley curse coming here, young ones, so just be aware.
Awesome.
He goes, I'm going to try and do it in my Hurley voice. That was the fucking thing, too. We started the second half so badly, and my fly was open. True story. I'll share that just for you. I cannot fathom. We got off to a really bad start in the second half, and I noticed going into the media timeout, my zipper, it was all the way down. It's at this point that he actually takes his zipper and recreates the visual for me, which I did not ask for, but nonetheless, in the back bowels of MSG, that's exactly what he did. And he goes, and I'm surprised more people didn't, So once I zipped up, we stabilized. End quote. That was it. Hurley was going full unzip to start the second half, and I guess as he was turning to go address his team at the under 16, he looked like a schmo and said, "This is why it's not that we're not recovering off the pick and rolls or making the third pass or the third angle. No, it was the zipper." So congrats.
Are you trying to tell me you peeped Dan Hurley's meat last night?
I did not, thankfully.
That's what I feel like you're saying.
I feel like he was explaining the story. He did an unzip in front of me. That did happen. Yes.
I feel like you're trying to say in your own words that
I'm not. Let me be very clear. I did not, and he did not. So you don't need to say I'm trying to do that, because that did not happen. But he did give me that quote. That was a CBS Sports exclusive. I was going to send the audio to Josh to play on the show, but we're walking in the back of the arena. There's too much noise. It's not good audio, but he did say it.
Well, I'm glad to know that we are not allowed to use the F word on the podcast unless it comes from Dan Hurley. Then we can say it. Then we can just say it as much as we want.
That is the rule, actually.
I guess that's the rule. I guess that's the rule.
Oh man, but impressive stuff. What did you see from your couch last night?
Well, to your point about Florida, I mean, I don't have them in the top 25-1 right now, not because I don't necessarily think they're one of the best 26 teams in the country, but when you have no good wins and a loss to TCU, and we're more than a month into the season, I don't know what to do with you. But, I mean, they've played 3 of the top 5 teams in the country to, like, 2-possession games. Some of them 1-possession games. The losses to Duke, UConn, and Arizona are all by fewer than 7 points. So they're right there. I don't know that they're going to win the SEC like everybody projected, or go back to back like some people thought was possible, myself included. I think they've got guard problems relative to the incredible backcourt they had last season. But they're right there. Like, you could just flip 1 or 2 of those games, and we're talking about them in the top 10 right now, as opposed to sitting here as a 4-loss team. So I don't think their problems are as big as maybe the records suggest, but I do think they have issues that were probably difficult to anticipate unless you were in the gym with them in the preseason. As for UConn, I tweeted this last night. I got a little bit of pushback. You tell me if I should have. The 4 undefeated teams that have net ratings above 30, so Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and Iowa State, have sort of settled into 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the AP poll. They're also 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top 25-1. I think that's where they should be. But UConn would likely be undefeated, and perhaps Arizona wouldn't be if UConn had just been at full strength for that game. So I'm fine with those 4 undefeated teams being 1, 2, 3, 4. But any serious conversation about national championship contenders has to include the 1-loss Huskies right there with them. Oh, yeah. You wouldn't push back. Some people push back on that. It seemed like a safe thing to say.
Yeah, no, it is a safe thing to say. And Gonzaga does rate ahead of UConn right now in KenPom. But yeah, I would have UConn there. I mean, I think there's a few 1-loss teams that are in that conversation. Yeah. But if you're strictly saying there's the 4 big unbeatens right now, and UConn is every bit the team that the other 4 are, I wouldn't necessarily push back on that.
Right. Yeah, certainly Purdue probably belongs in that conversation. Houston, Gonzaga. I mean, we'll get to them next.
BYU.
Maybe BYU is exactly what I was going to say. So there's a handful of them, but we tend to hyper-focus sometimes on the 0 in the loss column. But like that 1 in the loss column for UConn could easily be a 0 if the Mullins and Reed are just available. And every time they're on the court, you can see it. And I get the sense that every time Dan talks about his team publicly, you can kind of hear it. He likes what he has. I mean, you were with him face-to-face last night. He likes this team and believes it can. He knows what it looks like to go win 6 games in the tournament. I gather he believes this team can do it.
Precisely. We talked a little bit about that. I asked him on the walk and talk back to the locker room. This is post-zipper stabilization, just if what he has seen and belief that this is going to be a top 5 team. And I was like, you've gotten through every game except one, meaning the Texas one that's upcoming. All right, do you see the vision here that this team can be championship level, like truly, and not just easy plaudits after a tough win? And yeah, him and that staff, they are definitely all the way there. And you see it evidence. And the way they won the game too. On one note on the game, and I do want to get a little bit of what I talked to Golden about as well, but that was not truly 5 seconds. So Florida got, and there's who's to say if they make the shot, but they didn't even get the opportunity. That was not a 5. If you go back and watch the inbound there, it's under 5. Golden said they actually timed the play out multiple times in the locker room after. It was like 4.7. I think the SEC office might have been keeping a close eye on that as well, and it might have been under 5 according to their clock. That's only notable because a 5-second call in reality is like it's almost a 6, and if it's not a 6, it's 5 and a bum like in a beat. And that was a super quick 5-second call. other reasons that Florida lost the game, but that, you have to at least address that, because it is very unusual that you get a 5-second call in a 1-possession game in the closing seconds. Not that it never happens. It's comet-like in its rarity, and the officials almost always, they just tend to give you, because they don't have a stopwatch. It's their own cadence. They're trying to do it, do all this, and they usually give you 5 and a beat. They did not give Florida 5 and a beat. Golden had every right to be roaring over that.
Did it feel quick to you in person?
It
felt quick on TV.
Correct. It felt quick to me, and then actually, as Hurley was doing his press conference, I was dipping out of there just to prep to talk to him afterward, and Golden was waiting. And then that's when I discovered that, they reran the clock there. So I talked with him a little bit before his presser, and lo and behold, and then I reached out to someone else. And I think if you actually go and take it from the time that they initiate the play starting to the whistle going, it's not a full 5 seconds. And that's just, you don't normally see that. Like, if it was 5 and change and you got it, it's tough. That's fine. But it actually wasn't a full 5. And so Florida gets something taken away from them there. They had really good opportunities for the Gators overall to win this game. Thomas Howe continues to be just a stud. Hurley called him a first-team All-American. And honestly, he is playing at that level. He really is playing at that level. Again, he just has 4 or 5 plays a game where just reinforces that he's the best player. Interestingly enough, he led Florida in turnovers in this one, but his presence was huge. I thought Condon played really well. Fland was it was okay. I mean, he was on the floor till the very end. He fouled out in the closing seconds there. Lee had some really good, and to me, Lee, I know he's been the subject of some criticism on the show, just because he has not been able. Him and Fland collectively have both not been able to recreate even 80% of what was the greatest backcourt in Florida history. But you look at the line at the end of the night, good from the foul line, 8 of 9. Okay from inside the arc, 4 of 7, but 1 of 7 from 3-point range. And so percentage-wise on the season, it's not been great so far. He's 13 of 64 overall from 3-point range. From 2, he's 37%. It's not all on him, but they need, once Lee and Fland, and if they can really start combining to give Florida some real counterattack versus the bigs, then I think they will put it all together. Lee had a bumpy second half, but he was the one that went to the postgame press conference, and I really do respect that. Real quick on Florida big picture, GP and Golden. Yep. He said their best game in a loss. I was like, was this your best game? He's like, no, the Duke game was our best game in a loss. He's like, we should have had that game. We really should have had that game. And he has a very good point on that. The TCU one annoys him the most, understandably so. It's the weakest opponent. They blew a lead. I think they had 10-point lead there. Here, he said, we played well, but we didn't play well to definitively say like we should have won the game. He kind of feels that way about the Florida game. The Duke game. And he is still very confident in Florida being, one of the 2 or 3, if not the best team in the SEC. He did tell me, and I'll have some of this later today. Actually, I got to write this after the podcast is done. I got to go back and transcribe what we talked about. But he said, plain and simple, our margin for error is so much smaller this season than it was last season. And that, kind of goes without saying, but it probably is might be the first time he said it on the record this season. And I think that is exactly right. The margin of error for Florida is not what it was a season ago, but we have to emphasize that the Arizona game to open the season, game 1 in Vegas, they probably got 85%, 80% of the fans there. They lose close. They almost get Duke on the road, gave Duke its best game it's gotten all season. And then they play UConn to essentially within a possession. It was technically a 2-possession finish, but that was after the foul that needed to be committed late. So I would not bail on Florida. It's still, top 20 team in a lot of metrics, but yes, the record is 5-4. And from a record standpoint only, this ties the 14-15 UConn team coming off that national championship for the worst record through 9 games to start a season in the past 35 years.
Houck was awesome. Just to emphasize what you said, he was 7 of 12 from the field, 18 points. He had the spin move with like 8 minutes left, beat everybody down the court, finished awkwardly, but he's terrific. And then as for, the guard stuff, I mean, it's never this simple. It's never one thing, but they went from having the best guard in the country to having guard problems. I mean, that's where they're at. They've got guard problems right now. When last season they had the best guard in the country. And if we didn't know that in December of last year, we certainly knew it by the time we got to March and they were running through the NCAA tournament. I, like you, think they are good and will be good. But yeah, the margins are thin, and perhaps that's the best explanation for why they're sitting here on December 10th and still looking for their first signature win of the season. Let's move on. Before we get to the Wednesday whip around and talk about Michigan beating another team's brains out, that's what they do to everybody apparently. Let's dive into AJ DeBonsa, what he did in game 1 of the Jimmy V Classic. We're going to do that next. First, let's get our first word from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Score BYU 67, Clemson 64. AJ DeBonsa.
All right, GP froze. I didn't know if that was me or if that was him. So GP's going to have to log back out and log back in. We get one of these every so often. This is a live show. Got to roll with the punches. So GP has jumped out. He'll jump back in. I don't know if he's going to reset this entire game. I was there. I saw it up close and personal. And before we get to the DeBonsa end of it, the BYU game, Clemson game, the way that it started, Florida UConn being the nightcap, the building was probably, I want to say at tip, it was probably like 35% full. I think some BYU fans might have underestimated the commute from wherever they were staying, but they eventually filtered in to a larger degree by the time we were at the under 16. But what was interesting is Clemson gets off to this incredible run in the first half. They go on a 21-0 run. They're leading the second half. They're leading going into the second half by more than 20 points, and it was just bizarre to see BYU getting run out of the building. And at that point, I did not think a comeback to win the game was on the table. It was noticeable how DeBonsa wasn't a factor in the game. And at that point in that moment, it was a little bit of a flashback to the loss against UConn, where he didn't really do much in the first half and then really came to life in the second half. And then they come out of the second half and they make a run, and GP's back, and I'll throw it back to him in just a second. But I talked with the staff at BYU after the game, and actually DeBonsa as well. And apparently Kevin Young just went from the coach's room, which is adjacent to the main locker room, walked in, and there was not a 4 or 5 minute speech or going to the whiteboard. It was just simply, all right, this is on you guys. Do you want to fix this or not? Because BYU has had a few games this season where it is just getting off to bad starts, and it is recovering in the second half. And so apparently it was an extremely short talk. The silence kind of hung in the air a little bit, and the message was delivered. And then we can get into DeBonsa stuff in the second half, BP. But when you had to bail out of there, I was just setting the scene in the first half stuff, I went from thinking, okay, so how good is BYU, or is Clemson, is Clemson actually a lot better than we thought, to BYU just taking over the game in the second half, one of the more impressive second halves by any team we've seen this entire season.
Yeah, so I don't know what you said while I froze and had to disappear.
Yeah, it's all good.
I froze and I had to, but what I was weird experience for me. Last night, my middle guy had his Christmas program at school, which was early, so I was reduced to watching most of the first half, or at least following most of the first half of BYU Clemson on my phone. The Wi-Fi / cell network in his auditorium, it wasn't stellar. So there's no way to stream it. I'm just sort of like following it on my phone. Also paying close attention to the Christmas program. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
But following the score on my phone. And then at one point, I look down, I guess maybe we're in the second half now. It's 47-38. And I'm like, okay, 47-38. BYU's trying to get back into this thing. And then I'm paying attention to like jingle bells, jingle bells. And then I look down, it's like 47-38. And I'm like, Rudolph the red, and they're doing that thing, whatever they do. And I look down again and I'm like, how do you have this amazing school we pay all this money for, and I can't get cell phone service in the auditorium? I don't is AJ DeBonsa going for 35? Is he 0 of 17? Why am I stuck at 47-38? And I'm cussing the school in a church almost. It's like, it's not, the optics aren't great. And then I notice the other scores are changing on my scoreboard app, on the CBS Sports app. Why are the other scores changing, but I'm stuck at 47-38? Yeah. So then I actually had to walk. I think my phone's not working. I walk outside to scroll Twitter, and I'm like, okay, they're in a delay. Kebakeda broke the goal. So I was actually happy because I was worried I was going to miss the end of BYU Clemson and the beginning of UConn Florida because of this Christmas program. So I know you hated the delay but it allowed it was good for me. The delay was, I appreciate Kebakeda because the delay actually it coordinated better with the way my Tuesday night was going to unfold.
Well, you need to thank Roger Ayers because he's the official who noticed something was ajar or awry with the backboard and or rim, and we're not watching the game's television broadcast, so we understood there might be something slightly minor. So it went from thinking this would be a 2-minute thing to a full-on 15-minute delay that required a 3-minute warm-up altogether, and it did allow you to get home in time, which was beneficial. But yeah, that was just, especially doubleheader in one building. Think of the writers, think of the media people.
Oh, I know.
They need to take care of their stories, and delays all the more. I've got a lower timbre in my voice this morning because your boy's working here over on fewer than 5 hours sleep.
Oh yeah, no, I these are things. It's one thing when you have one game, or because we have these same types of situations when we're in studio. It's one thing when you got a 7:00 game in Stores and then a 9:00 game in Omaha, and you're just going from one to the other. One has no impact on the other. But when you are in the same building, every minute this one game goes long is a minute the other game's going later. So you push the entire night back. Like, you ever see us in studio for a multi-team event all happening at the same arena? The last thing you want in game one is overtime or any kind of delay, condensation on the floor. Let's clean that up. You're making everybody's night later. So I was thinking of you last night. I said a prayer for you. After I got through cussing out the cell phone service in church, I said a prayer for you because I was like, I'm in church. This is a good place to pray. You ain't been in your scripture, and it shows. Maybe you paid a punishment for that last night. You think that was God's way of repaying you for not being in your scripture? He delayed. You don't know that.
It was not. I assure you.
You don't know that.
I was one of 18,000 people in the building. It was not about me. Let's be very clear. I'm not.
But it was New York City, and I imagine there's a lot of people ain't been in their scripture.
Okay, keep it moving here. DeBanto was awesome. Can we get back on topic, please?
28 points. He was awesome.
This was the game. We'll link this in the show feed after here. This was the game that did announce his arrival. He has been a very good college freshman to this point. This is the start of the journey. He outscored Clemson in the second half, 22-21, accounted for 34 of BYU's 45 second half points by buckets or assists. The BYU defense held Clemson to only 4 points through the first almost 12 minutes of the second half. It wasn't just DeBansa. Keita was causing 20-minute game delays and had all these alley-oops and a couple of big swats, and then you had Wright hitting the winner, and Wright himself had a really nice game. It was as much of a team effort, and also AJ DeBansa made it happen as you could possibly ask for. And this was the game. This was the second half that maybe it does put BYU in the Final Four contender status. There's no doubt about it. Maybe ultimately it's going to be the game that we see. This is why BYU is a national championship contender, that it could be one of the three best teams in a loaded Big 12, but he got unleashed. And I talked to DeBansa a little bit afterward, talked to Rob Wright, and then I talked to Kevin Young, and he said, he was settling too much, on the outskirts near the baseline. And he said, we had this thing with Kevin Durant in Phoenix, me and Monty Williams, and Monty Williams referenced from when apparently they used to do this with Tim Duncan. And it was just kind of, if you're a certain level of talent, like just find your spot, the game, don't overthink it, go to your spot and see if we can make something happen. And so that's what Debanza did. He became more aggressive. His signature play of the game, I think, is the tomahawk dunk down the lane, put him up 6 with a minute and change to go. But it was very, very, very impressive to see. This becomes one of the 3 or 4 most notable performances of the season so far, and a season which we're going to get so many more. To do this on the Garden stage in comeback fashion, by the time all the UConn and Florida fans had really begun to filter in, because given that game delay as well, like I said when you were off the air, the crowd was not good in the first half. For the first part of the first half, it wasn't good. But then as BYU was coming back and the building was just about filled, it was a really, really awesome, really cool environment in there. And then as for the game-winning play, I tried to get the name of it. There's multiple names for it. Kevin Young would not give me it. He almost did. And he's like, you know what? I got to hold on to that. I was like, okay, fair. Rob Wright was the third option. Richie Saunders was the first option. The staff told me, we actually thought he was due. Like we wanted him to take that shot in that moment. But he makes a curl. He's still pretty covered, so they don't go to him. Then Debanza just makes like a quick, juke step, not there. Wright comes flying in, takes that shot from 30 feet, maybe. Yeah. Really awesome moment. Great for him. I got a chance to spend a few minutes with it was basically me, Debanza, and Wright in the locker room after most had kind of filtered out, and really cool to see 2 super happy guys in their moment, in their element, both having just played at the Garden for the first time in their life and made a lifetime memory. So really, really cool stuff. It is a heart. I mean, Clemson you had the game. That was a really bad choke, like really bad. But you do have to credit BYU for just really, bull by the horn stuff. And Debanza showed number 1 overall pick material. You had Brad Stevens, Sean Marks. There were, I counted just by visual, at least 5 or 6 general managers in the building last night. There were probably more, given that it was Debanza, and he put on a display that immediately and again reinforces the idea that he has just as strong of a case to be the number 1 pick as anyone else in next year's draft.
Well, I mean, you can see it. Like I say this sometimes about prospects. You don't have to have a subscription to 24/7 Sports. You should have a subscription to 24/7 Sports. That goes without saying. But you don't have to have one to walk in the gym and just tell that guy's different than everybody else. The way he, as you put it, gets to his spots, the way he shot makes, the way he shot creates, the way he can go by little guys or go by bigger guys or shoot over smaller guys. He's just a uniquely gifted guy who has been described this way for quite literally years. You remember we were at Peach Jam. I did a story on him. It was after his freshman year of high school. Now he reclassed, so it wasn't as far back as you might, as that implies. But he led Peach Jam in scoring after his freshman year of high school. Like, that's not normal. He's not normal. And last night was not his first good game of the season, but certainly his biggest game of the season on the biggest stage that they've been placed on so far. So he was terrific. But I think more than just him, you saw last night what that BYU team can be. Now, I saw it in the chat. I'm not picking on anybody, but like I just sort of roll my eyes sometimes when things like that gets tossed out. Like, if BYU plays like that in the second half, who's going to beat them? Well, nobody, I guess. But like, that's not. If BYU plays like that in the first half, who are they going to beat? I mean, we could do this all day long.
Right.
Nobody plays like that in the second half. AJ Debanza is not going to outscore power conference teams over the final 20 minutes of games by himself. Yeah. So that's not that. That was an incredible final 20 minutes, but not an indication of what they're going to consistently be, any more than what they were in the first half is an indication of what they're going to consistently be. But this is why I was high on them in the preseason. I forget the exact numbers, but it was like over the final 8 weeks of the season last season, they performed like a top 10 team in the country, maybe even better than that, according to the metrics at barttorvik.com. And then they bring back 2 starters, and I believed upgraded in terms of college basketball players at every position where they weren't returning a starter. And that's why I had them preseason top 5. I think I've got them 6th right now, but that's only because these 4 undefeated teams have just sort of jumped them, and they do have the 1 loss, but they look the part. They look like they can do anything you want them to do in terms of accomplishments in this season, win the Big 12, go to a Final Four, win the whole thing. They've got the pieces to do that. And I know DeBonce gets all of the attention from last night, but I thought Keba Keita was awesome. I love bigs like him. I think my favorite kind of college bigs, like my favorite, are like 6'6" centers, like dating back to my childhood, but also just the monsters. Set a screen, roll to the rim. We're going to throw it up there. You go get it, break the rim. Like he's built for that. He quite literally did it last night, and he's taken a jump. He looks the part, obviously, but now he seems real comfortable out there. And that BYU team's they're a factor. They're a factor for anything.
Yeah, we can move on just a second. Just a couple dangling thoughts. One, so Keita does he breaks the rim, and we have the game delay. He had like 2 more, maybe 3 more dunks after. Like that wasn't going to stop him from going Keba Keita and doing his Keba Keita thing, which I love. And yes, his presence on the floor, there just are not a lot of teams in the country. When you factor in how good of a scorer Sonder is DeBanza and his all-world ability, Rob Wright is capable on a given night for going 20 plus. In addition to like Kennard Davis has been back in the fold. They've got improving depth, but then like Keita's physical presence is just, there might be 5 teams that have someone like that really can be a game wrecker. I completely agree with you on that. I didn't toss out DeBance's official stat line. Career high 28 points, career high 9 rebounds, career high 6 assists, and his distribution I thought was tremendous and kind of plucked all the right notes in the second half for the most part. It was really impressive. And then on the Big 12 note, in talking to the staff after, that was a major talking point. Like, we had the rough start against what I guess it was, UConn, and then again against Miami, and then again against Dayton. Now they won the Miami-Dayton games. They were able to win this one. But it is acknowledged in that locker room that this can't keep happening, or they're going to get picked off a lot in the Big 12. There's no like, hey, all right, go out and run around for 20 minutes. We regather at the half, and then we flip the switch and make it happen. Not going to happen. Big 12 is the best league in the country this season. And if BYU has this settle as a personality trait, then BYU is not going to finish first, second, third, or fourth in the league. That just will not happen. So they're aware of that. Now what's interesting is they've finished every notable non-con game on the schedule. Upcoming is UC Riverside Pacific, Abilene Christian, and Eastern Washington up from now until over the next 2 weeks. And then they open league play on January 3rd against K-State. So they're going to have games, but they're not going to have high-level competition for a minute here. Be interested to see the way they won this game, if it has any kind of staying power in 3 weeks from now or not. But regardless, legendary night. And as I wrote at the top of the column, who knows where DeBanza is going to play in the NBA? He's going to get picked first, second, or third at the absolute worst, right? And that just speaks to the strength of the class overall. But there's no guarantee that he ever has a more special moment or memorable game at MSG than what he did on Tuesday night. To me, it recalled Carmelo's awesome debut at Syracuse in 2002. It recalled Zion's debut with Duke in the Champions Classic. We get every so often a freshman that has a particularly memorable game either against the opponent or the location. For DeBanza, his true coming out party was at the Garden. That's pretty cool.
We're hoping he plays down here in Memphis.
Yeah.
We wouldn't mind having him down here in Memphis.
I'm sure you wouldn't. Yes.
We would welcome him down here in Memphis. I'd like to spend the next 10 years with AJ DeBonza. We'll see how that goes. Let's do the Wednesday Whiparound.
Yeah.
Michigan just beat Villanova to death the same way they beat apparently everybody to death. We'll start with them. We'll do it next. Let's get one more word from our partners.
you can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Final score: Michigan 89, Villanova 61. That's Villanova, the one that won multiple national championships under Jay Wright. They got beat by 28 points last night. So the Wolverines are now 9-0. They've won 6 straight games by at least 25 points. They have 4 wins by at least 40. I believe 7 of their 9 wins are by at least 25. Can anybody besides TCU play with them?
Apparently not. That's my number 1 team, but you won't put them there. So take it away, GP.
I mean, I acknowledge at some point if they keep beating everybody by 25 plus, I'm going to have to take that into account. Right now it's Arizona 1, Michigan 2 in the top 25 and 1, but I understand what you're saying. I hear you.
It's mighty impressive. I was sitting next to our buddy Rob Doster last night, so we had this game up on his computer, and we were keeping eyes on it until eventually, until we didn't need to, essentially. And at the start of the game, though, when they were up big, I said, "How much do you think they win by?" And he said, "I don't know, 50." I was like, "That would be insane." But I said, "I think it's going to be 26," and they wound up winning by 28. So ding one for your boy over here. But yes, another casually catastrophic win for Michigan. What else is there to say? They've been awesome. They have wrapped up their non-conference portion of the schedule against high majors. They have a high major upcoming on the road this weekend. We'll talk about it on the Friday show. That's Maryland. But of course, Maryland, Michigan is an in-league game. What else, GP, should we tour around here on Tuesday night? With the obvious acknowledgement, I was at the Garden, so I was not dialed into stuff. But I was able to watch some stuff here and there, so I can't speak to some of this stuff, but wasn't as typically, checked in on all the games given that I was at the Garden.
So Illinois, another big team, 88, Ohio State 80. That was at Value City. So the Illini pick up a nice road win in big play, and they do it despite Thornton going big. I mean, he was awesome in the first half, finished with, I believe, 34. But Illinois adds another victory, and Keaton Wagler, who has become a real story. There's a couple of freshmen, we'll get to another one here at Indiana in a second, who, aren't necessarily the 5-star top 10 prospects projected one and done, who are having really nice seasons. Obviously, Cameron Boozer on a level by himself, DeBonsa last night, but Wagler went big, and again, we'll get to it in a second, but Lamar Wilkerson at Indiana got 44 points. So I know you didn't see it, but just so much of the attention at Illinois has been on players from outside of this country. They've got a freshman who's putting up good numbers, and he was terrific last night.
He was. Merkovich also had 20. Wagler had 23. Merkovich had 22 and 9. And Illinois goes on the road and gets another really good win to bolster its resume all the more. This is, of course, a league game, and to get the win in the way they did on the road against an Ohio State team who's still to be determined. I still love Thornton. He's averaging 21.7 points, 5.2 rebounds, 4.4 assists this season, and is shooting 55. We're still early, but still, you get halfway through December and you're shooting 55.6% from beyond the arc. Wow. Thornton is one hell of a player. I think Ohio State should be an NCAA tournament team this season. It's 7-2. It does not have a win over a projected tournament team yet. Get Illinois on your home floor. You want to take care of business. They couldn't get it done. We wait and see on Ohio State. Their next really high-profile game is the CBS Sports Classic against North Carolina, but they do have West Virginia upcoming this weekend. With Illinois, they now rate as a top 10 team in some predictive metrics, and that's understandable. They have good claims over wins against Texas Tech at home, and then getting the win against Tennessee just a few days ago, and then you go on the road, both of these wins being away from home. Mighty impressive, and yes, they have a variety of players who can score. They can play in different ways. They can score in different ways. They've got really good size. They've got excellent toughness that really starts with Boswell running the point overall. And this is a team that is some teams can genuinely go 10 deep. Doesn't seem like Illinois is a 10 deep team, but they're a super deep 8-man rotation, if you kind of get what I'm saying. In similar ways to UConn, which is really flirting on having a 9-man rotation in that style. Really good group. Underwood has a squad because of how dominant Michigan has been. Right. They're a tier down from that, but Michigan State, Illinois, like, yes, right there with each other. Two really, really excellent teams so far this season, and that's the kind of win on the road that really does, in my opinion. And I draw this from having talked to coaches over the years on it. Like, go win on the road against a league opponent, and that kind of performance, like that boosts morale and almost carries you through Christmas in a way. A loss would have been understandable. They weren't going to take it, and so they wind up pulling away 88-80.
So one more game from last night to get to. Final score, Indiana 113, Penn State 72. Another first-year player in the program at Indiana doing big things. Lamar Wilkerson, 44 points, 16 of 22 shooting from the field. Only in the transfer portal era could a dude who played at Sam Houston for 3 seasons suddenly get 44 for Indiana in his 4th season of college basketball. The Hoosiers shot 69% from the field, 55% from beyond the arc. They had 17 3-pointers in the game made. That's 3rd most in program history. And the 44 points for Wilkinson, that is a Assembly Hall single game record. So that's quite the story. Lamar Wilkerson, 44 points, big performance from him.
I want to say, could be wrong, but I think he might be our first 40-point scorer of the season. You said Assembly Hall record. Is it also I don't know. I'm wondering if it's an IU record to cash that many from beyond the arc in one game. Ridiculous. Poor Penn State, man. Just Penn State as a program, I think, is on the wrong side of a number of Big Ten records, and with this one, just dropping 10 threes. Now, admittedly, I did not see a second. I didn't see a second of this game. Josh is telling me that it is an Indiana record as well, hitting 10 triples in a game. Mighty impressive. And, given Indiana's next opponent, I actually found this pretty notable here because last night, let me bring up the score. I know Kentucky played and won. They played North Carolina Central. So Kentucky won 103-67. And then Indiana puts up 113. Two different opponents, but to be fair, like Penn State isn't going to be a tournament team. It's not going to be a top 70 team probably in the country this season. But both those programs got really good tune-ups ahead of their game this weekend on Saturday, which is more urgent for Kentucky than it is Indiana. But I couldn't help but notice that as that played out there, that they both put on at least the kind of showing that you'd want going into another big game. But for Indiana, yeah, that's big time stuff there. Only other thing, you can keep it on that, GP, but I did at least want to note and acknowledge this because I thought it was cool. USC did go on the road and win against San Diego. That's Eric Musselman's alma mater. So they went on the road, did a homecoming game there, and you got a power conference team going to play a mid-major on the road in December, no less. Not exactly a common thing. And that was another score that popped to me on the scoreboard last night.
All right, let's look ahead real quick to the next couple of days, then we'll get out of here. On Wednesday tonight, not much, but Wisconsin is at Nebraska. That's the Big Ten opener for undefeated Nebraska, with Wisconsin trying to walk into Pinnacle Bank. I wish them luck. Minnesota at Purdue. Minnesota coming off of the 11-point win over Indiana. Purdue coming off of the 23-point loss to Iowa State. And then this one wouldn't be on our radar under normal circumstances, but Idaho at Notre Dame. I only mention it because Notre Dame announced yesterday Marcus Burton is headed for ankle surgery. No timetable for a return, but he was averaging 18.5 points, 3.7 assists, and 30.1 minutes per game. For a Notre Dame team that's 7-3, that's obviously a big blow when you are trying to break through and get somewhere with that program. To lose a player of this caliber in this moment, and this isn't going to be like give it 2 weeks. It's ankle surgery, so just a tough blow for. I guess it's been a tough few days for the Irish.
Yeah, it feels like the Burton news kind of flew under the radar with Notre Dame. I can't imagine why that was the case, but it's not like that was rising to the top of the newsreel. But that is an extremely important injury for that program, and is the kind of injury that unfortunately can flip a result or two minimum versus if he would have been on the floor.
Right. And then on Thursday, this is actually really good. Like, rivalry games are fun no matter what, but this one's, I think, excellent. Iowa at Iowa State, with the Cyclones coming off of massive victory at Purdue. So, Hilton's going to be wild. And then Iowa's sitting here at 8-1, first year under, in-state product Ben McCollum. So, there's probably a part of him that, he's immersed in this. And Thursday night, that's clearly the best game on the schedule. There aren't many good games on the schedule, but that's I don't think you've got to be within the borders of that state to appreciate that's a fun rivalry game we're going to get on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Iowa can really push it and keep it close. It's at Iowa State. Like, if it fell this season, Iowa State at Iowa, then we'd really have something. But the rivalry game. Stranger things have happened. Iowa State looks fantastic so far this season. And so now we see what Bennett Sturtz and company can go in and try and do. But an 8-1 group, off to a really nice start. And we'll see if Iowa State can try and continue to, amass not just wins, but, impressive wins with really impressive margins. It's not been at the level of Michigan because no one is at that level this season, but it's pretty close, and coming off of obviously the record-setting, record-tying margin that it put up against Purdue over the weekend there. So, yeah, solid enough Wednesday and Thursday. This, of course, this week and next week, finals week around the country. So we are at least gifted the occasional really good matchup. This weekend's going to have some good stuff as well, but there's a reduction in games. This happens every single year. We get out of November, and then you turn to December, and just the inventory isn't as dominant. But at least we do actually have a few things we're tuning in for. Nebraska, in particular, off to a really nice start, and if you can beat Wisconsin, then Nebraska's shorthanded. They lost Connor Seagen for the season, so see how they handle without him. But that's a really good matchup I'll be tuned into on Wednesday night.
All right, let's get out of here. It looks like you need a nap.
I definitely do, and I'm nowhere close to taking one. So I'm gonna wrap up, go write this Florida Todd Golden column day after retrospective stuff, and just keep on making it happen, man. Hey, it's part of the job. What do you want from me? Apparently, longtime listeners are aware of the fact that about 7 years ago, woke up to a dead deer in my front yard. Right, that was before we had the fence. Now we have a fence. And apparently a deer ran into one part of the fence last night. So my wife, actually, as I was getting ready to do the show, was going out. She said it wasn't too bad. Apparently, I still haven't seen it, but she said we can put a bungee cord around it, kind of make it look doable as we put up the Christmas lights. So I got that. I got fence and Christmas lights.
How do you have more deer problems in Connecticut than I have in Mississippi?
Everywhere.
I live in Mississippi.
Yeah, there are way more deer in Connecticut than Mississippi.
That's because we shoot all of ours immediately.
That's very well making some venison soup, I'm sure. But
there's nothing worse you can be in Mississippi than a deer. In the year 2025, I think there's nothing worse. Mississippi has a complicated history
with deer.
With a lot of things, if we're being honest. With a lot of things, if we're being honest. But particularly I'm just telling you, perhaps the reason deer never run into my fence is because if a deer even got close to my fence, I've got neighbors on either side that would blow their brains out immediately.
Yeah, no, I had deer in my front yard just the other day, and man, we can wrap up. But when I'm standing in my living room, and my son goes, "Dad, there's 2 deer in our yard," and then you go up to the window, just massive animals, just human. When you see one that's 13 feet away from you, huge. So yeah, plenty of people shoot deer here. But I drove home super late from the garden last night. But you take the Merritt Parkway up here in Connecticut, and every mile and a half they've got the deer sign on the road, because they're all over that. You got to constantly be aware that a deer could just run into the road at any given.
I will say it's probably 10, 12 years ago, and then we'll get out of here. My wife was coming home and hit a deer. Deer runs out in the road, and she just smacked it, right? and like damaged the car, the whole deal. We had to call the, police or whatever you do. And I swear to God, this is exactly what happened. I don't even know if this is legal. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but I'm just telling you the story. My wife calls me and she's like, I just hit a deer. And I'm like, are you okay? Did all that stuff. And then I'm like, all right, we'll call the cops.
Let me get that out of the way.
Yeah. And then I was like, all right, where are you? And she tells me where she's at. I was like, she was 5 minutes from her house. I was like, all right, I'll be right there. And I get there and the deer is still like, it's out. I mean, it ain't getting up, but it ain't dead, but it ain't getting up, but it's still like it looks like it's resting, like kind of like you look like you should do, but it's
thanks.
So then the cops show up, or the sheriff or whoever it is. And I'm like, yo, man, I don't know. It's my wife and she was driving and now the deer's over here and I don't know. And he's like, is it still alive? And I was like, man, I don't know much about deers, but it looks like it's still alive. And he goes, okay. And he went to the car, got a gun and boom, popped it.
Yep.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, is that really what we do? Is that how we handle this? I mean, shouldn't you have told me? I mean, I felt like I was on the For You tab of Twitter. I felt like I was on the For You tab, just seeing things.
And
I didn't know.
My For You tab, thankfully, it's not loaded up with that stuff. Again,
my For You tab is nothing.
For You tab is loaded up with is a direct reflection of you and your online patterns. That's all.
I watch murders and gang fights.
Yeah,
fist fights. I mean,
I know.
You have no idea what these eyes have seen. It's outrageous, buddy. It's out. Anyway, I hope your fence is okay. I guess what I'm trying to say.
We'll figure it out one way or the other. Great show. That's a show. We'll
I don't
be
think
back.
you're allowed to say great show. We'll let other people decide.
Great show. Great show with you. I enjoyed this. Okay.
Was
it a great show? Honestly, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We got it done.
We're done. It's a completed show.
It's a completed show.
Yes.
That's a show. We'll be back Friday morning at 9:45 a.m.
We'll see about that. We'll see. It could be 9:52. Yeah, we'll see. It could be 9:52.
I hope not.
Well, it's just if I hit any traffic from the moment I leave my house to the moment I get here, it's a tough go. I'm trying to do too many things in the morning. Trying to be a father, take my kids to school.
You don't need that. No, that's like way down the list of priorities.
Okay, I'm going to text my wife and tell her. Norlander said I do not need to take the kids to school. Okay. I'm going to tell her that.
Correct.
You take the kids to school when I'm in town, and all the nights when I'm not in town, you also the mornings following, you take the kids to school then too. And I'll just sit here and talk for a living.
Brendan in the chat, let's get out of here, but he does bring up a great point. You can't accuse me of not being in my scripture, and you're dropping JC blasts on the air. You would not be doing that if you were in your scripture, but you're not. You're not in your scripture. Lord's name in vain. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to repent.
Okay.
I'm going to repent. I'm going to end this show. I'm going to spend a few minutes repenting. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. I've got shouts to Yancey Thigpen in here now. I've got to get
No. He can't. No. That's not good. Not close, but no. No, maybe for another show, but yeah.
It's just in here. It's just, I'm looking at it right now. Terry Teagle's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Ion College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to pods, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. Do it. We will talk to you again at some point on Friday. We'll see. Till then, take care.